I scored 702 points in the college entrance examination. On the day the admission results were released, my whole family gathered around the computer, waiting for my acceptance letter from Tsinghua or Peking University. The moment the page refreshed, it wasn't Tsinghua, nor was it Peking University, but it was a junior college I had never even heard of. My dad was so angry he slapped me, and my mom fainted from crying in the living room. The homeroom teacher frowned and asked me, "Lin Zhaoxue, did you fill out your application form incorrectly yourself?" Everyone said it was my fault for filling out the form wrong, and that the system couldn't make a mistake. Only my best friend Gu Wanqing held me, crying harder than anyone else. "Zhaoxue, it's okay, even a junior college can upgrade to a bachelor's degree. In my past life, I was fooled by her act, left with no way to appeal, my family destroyed and my life ruined. But it wasn't until I swallowed a whole bottle of sleeping pills that I found an alert for a login from a different location in my email trash. It turns out that the person who changed my college application was never me from start to finish. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 3 days before the application deadline. This time, I personally filled in Tsinghua and Peking University, after making all the preparations, then, wait for her to come and steal. I scored 702 on the college entrance exam. On the day the admission results were released, my mom went out early to buy fish and pork ribs, and relatives started flooding the group chat from noon. "Let's wait tonight for Zhaoxue to get the notification from Tsinghua or Peking University." 702 points. The Lin family has really produced a top scorer. My dad pretended to stay calm, but in reality, he'd been pacing back and forth in the living room since the afternoon, urging me to refresh the page over and over. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the inquiry system finally opened. I entered my admission ticket number and ID card, then clicked to query. The line of text on the page was not Tsinghua University, nor was it Peking University. Instead, it was Linjiang Vocational and Technical College. My mind buzzed, and my entire body froze. The glass in my mother's hand fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. Was there a mistake? Could there have been a mistake? She rushed over to grab the mouse, refreshing the page over a dozen times, but the result remained unchanged. It was still that vocational college. My dad's face darkened instantly as he stared at me and asked, "Did you fill out the wrong college application yourself?" "No," my voice cracked. "I applied to Tsinghua and Peking University. You watched me submit it." "Then what is this?" He pointed at the screen, veins bulging on his forehead. "A score of 702 and you're going to a vocational college. Tell me what this is." My eyes welled up with tears. How would I know? I clearly applied for Tsinghua and Peking University. "Do you even have a brain?" My dad's voice grew louder, the veins on his forehead bulging. "You clearly applied for Tsinghua and Peking University. Could the system have changed it to a junior college on its own?" My mom was already crying, sitting on the floor with her face in her hands, sobbing and repeating, "It's impossible. This can't be happening." Just then, my phone started vibrating frantically. The class group exploded. "Did you find out about Zhaoxue? With a score of 702, it would be a shame if she didn't get into Tsinghua or Peking University. Quick, send a screenshot." Before I could respond, someone in the group had already sent a screenshot of my admission page. After 2 seconds of deathly silence, the group chat completely exploded. "Wait, what? Linjiang Vocational College? Could the system be wrong? 702 points and only getting into a junior college. How did this even happen? No way. Did a high score really backfire this badly?" Those words kept popping up one by one, stabbing into my eyes like knives. I hadn't even recovered when the doorbell rang. My dad opened the door with a dark expression, and our homeroom teacher, Zhou Lan, stood at the doorway, her demeanor much heavier than usual. "What's going on?" She must have also seen the screenshot in the group chat, because she didn't even properly change her shoes after entering, walking straight to the computer. The line of text on the screen was still glowing. She finished reading and immediately furrowed her brow. "Zhaoxue, think carefully again. Did you accidentally click the wrong option when submitting?" I stared at her blankly. "Teacher Zhou, even you think I filled it out incorrectly myself." "That's not what I meant." Her tone softened. "I mean, the system doesn't make mistakes for no reason. We need to figure out the problem first." Just then, Gu Wanqing also arrived. She was carrying some fruit, and as soon as she walked in, her eyes turned red, and she quickly hugged me. "Zhaoxue, how could this happen?" She held me tightly, her voice trembling as if she felt my pain more than anyone else. At that moment, I didn't doubt her at all, only gripping her sleeve desperately. "I didn't fill it out wrong. I really didn't." "I know," she said, crying while patting my back. "Don't be afraid. There must be a way." For the next few days, my parents, teacher, and I went back and forth between the school and the admissions office, but every time we got the same answer: the system record is normal, the application has been confirmed and submitted by the examinee, the electronic confirmation is valid. I said I applied to Tsinghua and Peking University, but no one believed me. My dad went to great lengths to pull strings for me, humbling himself to beg others, and broke his leg on the way back. My mom sat in the hospital corridor crying uncontrollably, her hair seemingly turning half white overnight, and I became the laughingstock of the entire county. Mistakenly filled out college applications with 702 points and ended up in a junior college. High score, low ability. Gu Wanqing still accompanied me every day, going to the hospital with me, gently persuading me, Xiaoxue, stop torturing yourself, you can still upgrade from junior college to bachelor's degree. It wasn't until a month later that I found an email at the very bottom of my spam folder. Volunteer system remote login alert. When I opened the email and saw the login time, my blood ran cold. At 11:22 a.m. that day, I had never logged into the system at all, but my application choices were altered via another device on the day the scores were published, which was also the day I needed to submit my application choices. Only Gu Wanqing had access to my computer and phone. I finally understood, but it was already too late. My student status was locked, the registration deadline for repeating grades had passed. My dad was bedridden and couldn't walk, and when my mom looked at me, all she saw was despair. That night, I swallowed an entire bottle of sleeping pills. When I opened my eyes again, the cicadas outside the window were screeching. I gasped for air, my whole body drenched in cold sweat, as if I had just been pulled out of water. On the desk lay a draft of my college application form, with a pen still resting on top of it. I froze for a few seconds, then suddenly grabbed my phone. June 27th. There were only 3 days left until the college application deadline. I stared intently at that string of dates, my hands trembling so much I could barely hold the phone steady. Not the day the admission results came out, not after my dad broke his leg, not before I swallowed the pills, but earlier. It's still early, and there's time for everything. Xiaoxue, come out and have some watermelon. Outside the door, my mother's voice was as clear and bright as if nothing had ever happened. My nose stung, and I nearly burst into tears on the spot. This was before my dad broke his leg, before my mom cried herself hoarse, before our family was crushed by a junior college admission letter. I really came back. I pinched myself hard, the pain bringing tears to my eyes. It wasn't a dream. I immediately opened the college application system, and the account interface was exactly the same as I remembered. In my past life, I only realized at the moment of death how Gu Wanqing had done it. She didn't hack into the system, nor did she bribe anyone. She simply took advantage of accompanying me to fill out the application, to secretly photograph my verification code and memorize my security questions. The most devastating part was my old tablet at home. That day, she claimed she needed to check school information, took the tablet to connect to our home Wi-Fi, and conveniently set the application system to automatically remember her account, making that device a trusted one. During the final window for last-minute changes before admission, she didn't even need to come to my house anymore. With just that tablet and the information she had previously memorized, she could change my admission from Tsinghua or Peking University to a junior college. I stared at the screen, feeling a chill spreading through my chest. In this life, of course I could immediately change my password, revoke the old tablet's access, and completely block her, but that wouldn't be enough. I know people like Gu Wanqing all too well. Once she realizes I'm guarding against her, she'll definitely switch to a more covert method, possibly even shifting all suspicion completely off herself. What I want isn't just keeping my volunteer application. What I want is irrefutable proof that she personally changed my application. This time, I want her to have absolutely nowhere to run. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm, and began to act. First thing, I recorded the entire college application process starting from login, exported it to the cloud, and additionally made a notarized electronic copy. Second thing, I synced the verification codes to a backup email and an old phone to prevent notifications from being deleted. Third thing, I dug out my dad's old and used webcam, cleaned it, and installed it on the top shelf of the bookcase, with the lens directly facing my desk and computer. Fourth thing, and the most important one, I deliberately kept the trusted permissions on that old tablet. I'm not changing the password, I'm changing the trap. Just as I finished all this, my phone vibrated. Gu Wanqing sent a message. Xiaoxue, I'll come to your house tomorrow afternoon to help you fill out your college applications. Okay, I went through the major groups at Tsinghua and Peking University for you again last night. I stared at those 2 lines, feeling a wave of nausea churning in my stomach. That's exactly what she said in her past life. Back then, I only thought she was considerate, even feeling lucky in my heart to have such a good friend. Looking back now, every word feels like a needle wrapped in sugar. My fingers paused for a few seconds before slowly typing out the reply. Sure, come on. The next afternoon, Gu Wanning arrived right on time. She carried some fruit and a thick professional notebook, greeted my mom with a smile as soon as she walked in, making my mom beam with delight. Auntie, I specially reviewed the professional group for Xiaoxua last night. She has high scores, so you need to be even more careful. Don't let one small detail slip and cause a delay. My mother nodded repeatedly. Wan Qing is still the most thoughtful, with you accompanying Xiaoxua. I feel at ease. I sat in the room listening, my fingertips gradually tightening. After Gu Wanqing came in, she sat by my bed as if she were familiar with the place, opened her notes, and pointed at them for me to see. You see, the major group at Qingbei leans more towards engineering, so your future path will be more stable. Peking University is also good, but haven't you always said you wanted to join a lab and do research? In that case, Qingbei is actually more suitable for you, she spoke very earnestly, as if she were genuinely planning my future for me. I listened while logging into the system in front of her, opening each option one by one. Major selection, accepting program adjustments. The camera on the bookshelf was on, the screen recording software was running in the background, and the verification code synchronization was also active. I deliberately left myself unguarded. Just as I had in my previous life, I still prefer Tsinghua or Peking University, I said, staring at the screen as if talking to myself. If I can get into a national-level lab someday, my parents would probably be really happy. Gu Wanqing paused while flipping through her notes. She looked up and smiled at me, her smile still as gentle as ever. Of course, with your scores, you're naturally worthy of the best future. But in that instant, I still caught the fleeting stiffness in her eyes. Pretending not to notice, I stood up and said, I'll go get some iced drinks. Before leaving the room, I deliberately left my phone, computer screen, an old tablet on the table. This time, I wasn't unprepared. I left it for her on purpose. When I came back with 2 drinks, Gu Wanning was already sitting up straight, flipping through that notebook. She saw me and smiled as if nothing had happened. So soon? Didn't want you to wait too long. I put down the drink and casually picked up my phone, pretending to glance at the screen. By the way, Gu Wanning took a sip of her iced drink and casually reminded, don't make your security questions too complicated. Your memory isn't that great. What if you forget them yourself later? That'd be quite troublesome. I almost let out a sneer right there. She said something similar in her past life. Back then, I even laughed at her for being a jinx, telling her how could I possibly forget my own account. Now that I think about it, every word she said wasn't just idle chatter. She was testing me, and also paving the way for herself. It's fine, I smiled down. I can remember, we chatted for over an hour. She alternated between analyzing the popularity of majors for me, calculating my score ranking, and occasionally reminding me to double-check my college application order. My mom brought in fruit twice during the conversation, standing at the doorway and smiling as she sighed. Wan Qing is such a thoughtful child. Xiaoxua, having a friend like her, Mom is truly at ease. It felt as if something cold had just crushed my heart, yet I still had to force a smile on my face. At 7 in the evening, Gu Wanqing finally got up to leave. Before leaving, she patted my shoulder, her voice soft and gentle. Don't be nervous, just fill it out as you think. Anyway, no matter how you fill it, it won't make a difference in the end. I looked at her and gave a slight nod. Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. After she left, I immediately locked the door and rushed back to the desk to pull up the camera footage. When I pressed the play button, I could even hear my own heartbeat in the footage. As soon as I left the room, Gu Wanqing lowered her head. She first took out her phone and quickly snapped a photo of the verification code reminder on my desk. Then she looked at the computer screen and memorized my security questions. Finally, she reached out, picked up the old tablet, opened the browser, logged into the volunteer system, and checked the option to remember the account automatically. The entire process took less than a minute, yet it was this less than a minute, and every detail in that remote login alert from my past life, that matched up one by one. I stared fixedly at the screen, my hands slowly clenching, not even noticing my nails digging into my palm. What I never got to see with my own eyes in my past life, even until death, was now clearly laid out before me in this life. She really did it after all, not a single step off. The video froze on the moment she bent down to type in the verification code. The light fell on her profile, gentle to the point of innocence. Looking at that Familiar face. My chest felt as if crushed under a boulder. Gu Wanqing, so in this life, you still end up doing the same thing. On the day the application deadline arrived, I woke up very early. Truth be told, I barely slept the night before. The image of Gu Wanqing lowering her head to take a verification code keeps flashing in my mind. I clearly already have the first piece of evidence of her actions, but I still don't dare to let go, because I know it's not enough. I need her to actually change the volunteer application, actually putting myself into a dead end. At 10 in the morning, I moved my computer to the living room. My dad was sitting on the sofa, my mom standing beside him, staring more intently than I was. In front of them, I went through each of my choices again, confirming them one by one. First choice, Tsinghua or Peking University, major group, order of majors, willingness to be adjusted. Nothing missing. My mom looked nervous, muttering repeatedly, slow down, read carefully, don't rush. My dad pretended to stay calm, but his eyes never left the screen. Finally, I clicked submit. When the submission success page popped up, I deliberately paused for a few seconds to let them all see it clearly. Only then did my mom breathe a sigh of relief. All right, now I'm really at ease. I smiled too, but the smile never reached her eyes. At noon, Gu Wanqing even sent a voice message specially. Her voice carried a familiar smile. Zhao Shui, have you submitted it yet? When you receive your acceptance letters from Tsinghua and Peking University, don't forget to treat me to a big meal. I listened to that voice message twice before pressing reply. Sure, as soon as the results come out, you'll be the first person I treat. For the next half month, I didn't bring up anything. I chatted with her as usual, replied with, I'm fine, and not nervous, as usual, and invited her to my house as usual. Listening to her pretend to ask if I had started checking the admission progress, she also acted flawlessly, as if she genuinely wanted me to get into Tsinghua or Peking University even more than I did. Until the day the admission inquiry opened, at 6:30 in the evening, the whole family gathered around the computer again. The family group chat is even livelier than in my previous life. Hurry up and send the screenshot. Tonight, we must wait for Zhao Shui's good news from Tsinghua and Peking University. I stared at the query page, my palms growing colder by the moment, knowing what was going to happen next. My chest still couldn't help but tighten when the moment actually arrived. At 7:05, the page loaded. My mom saw it first, and her whole body went limp, collapsing directly onto the ground. My dad rushed to the computer, glanced at it for just a second, then raised his hand and slapped me. Lin Zhaoxue, are you out of your mind? A sharp buzzing rang in my ears, and my face burned painfully, but I didn't cry. I stared at the screen, my entire body turning cold. On the page was still that school, so familiar it made me sick. Linjiang Vocational and Technical College. Again, exactly the same. History is like a knife, stabbing back with a vengeance. I didn't change it, I said, covering my face, my voice trembling. I really didn't change it. Would it have changed on its own if you didn't? My father's eyes were red with anger. The whole family watched you fill out Tsinghua and Peking University. How did it end up being a vocational college in the end? My mother was crying on the floor, grabbing my pant leg and asking me over and over if I had remembered wrong, if I was too nervous. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Zhou Lan arrived quickly. She had clearly rushed over after seeing the screenshot in the group chat. After looking at the page, her brows immediately furrowed. Zhao Xue, the college application system doesn't make mistakes for no reason. As soon as these words were spoken, the way my parents looked at me changed. It was the same in my past life. Everyone assumed by default that the system couldn't be wrong. The only one who could be wrong was me. Gu Wanqing rushed in at that very moment. As soon as she saw the page, her eyes turned red. She quickly came over, hugged me tightly, and her voice trembled heavily. Zhao Xue, how could this happen? Uncle, auntie, please don't push her anymore. She's already suffering enough. She hugged me, crying more genuinely than anyone else, yet still pleading on my behalf, but this only made everyone more certain of one thing. This is a mess I've brought upon myself. I lowered my head and, under the pretense of wiping away tears, opened the synchronized email. At the top lay a new email, volunteer system login and modification reminder. I clicked it open, and my heart sank heavily. Last night at 11:22 p.m., someone logged into my account from a trusted device, modified my application choices, and completed the electronic confirmation. At the very bottom of the email, there was a line of text that felt almost chillingly cruel. If a complete appeal for an exception is not submitted before 24:00 tonight, the admission file will be officially locked. I suddenly looked up at the clock on the wall. It was now 6:27 p.m. time until midnight, only 5.5 hours remained. I stared intently at the email, then slowly raised my eyes to look at Gu Wanning, who was still hugging me and crying. Tears welled at the corners of her eyes, her expression of heartache flawless. If I hadn't known the truth already, even I would have almost believed her. She really has changed, and I only had 5.5 hours left to get Qingbei back. The house was completely in chaos. My mom was sitting on the ground crying, my dad pacing back and forth in the living room furious, while Zhou Lan kept saying over and over, "Stay calm, don't make a big deal out of this." Gu Wanqing hugged me, tears falling rapidly, as if she truly cared about me more than anyone else. "Zhao Xue, don't rush just yet. Rushing to the admissions office now won't help. If it turns out it was really your own mistake, it'll only make things worse." She spoke softly, as if thinking on my behalf, but I knew she was just buying time. As long as it drags to zero, the file will be locked and Qingbei will be completely gone. I lowered my head, deliberately pretending to be on the verge of breaking down, but my hands secretly turned on the voice recorder in my pocket. What should I do then? My voice was extremely hoarse. "Are you really expecting me to go to a junior college? That's not what I meant." She hugged me tightly, sobbing as she said, "I just think you're too emotional right now. If you say something wrong at the admissions office, things will only get worse. How about taking a break first?" That's exactly what she said in my past life too. Taking that break led to my college enrollment being locked, my dad breaking his leg, and my mom completely collapsing. I can't believe her this time, but I didn't expose her right away. Just kept my head down and stayed silent. Sure enough, seeing that I didn't say anything, she became bolder. A few minutes later, she excused herself to go to the restroom and turned toward the balcony. I took 2 steps forward and stopped by the door. She thought I hadn't followed, so she lowered her voice and spoke to Teacher Zhou. "Teacher Zhou, please calm her down first. She's extremely emotional right now. If she really makes a scene at the admissions office, it'll only get more embarrassing. First, keep her calm, don't let her go over now." A chill ran down my spine. She doesn't just want to harm me, she wants to do exactly as she did in her past life, holding me while crying, yet personally pressing me down to my death right there. By the time she turned back, tears were already streaming down her face again. "Zhao Xue, the teacher is doing this for your own good." Before she could finish speaking, I had already turned around and walked back into the room. I pulled open the drawer to get my old tablet, but suddenly froze. The login history in the browser is gone, the automatically saved account records are gone, even the recent operation history has been cleared. I stared at the screen, my fingertips gradually turning cold. Gu Wanqing not only changed her application choices for college admission, but also took advantage of the earlier chaos to erase all traces from her old tablet. If I hadn't recorded everything in advance, and synchronized and notarized it, this move alone would have been enough to send me back into the same dead end as in my previous life. Outside the room, my dad suddenly shouted, "Are we going to the admissions office or not?" I clutched the tablet and walked out. Zhou Lan frowned at me, her tone growing heavier. "Zhao Xue, think carefully first. If you go over there now and it turns out in the end you're still the one who confirms the changes, what if it's not?" I looked up and interrupted her directly. The living room fell silent all of a sudden. Zhou Lan froze. My mom also looked at me with red eyes. I wiped the tears from my face, my voice not loud, yet each word fell heavily. "I'm going to the admissions office, right now." It was almost 10 o'clock when we arrived at the admissions office. The teacher on duty led us into the office, and after hearing the situation, they first pulled up the system backend. The rows of records on the screen were cold and complete. At 1:22 a.m. last night, the account was logged into via a trusted device. Security verification passed. Volunteer modification successful. Electronic confirmation completed. The on-duty teacher pulled up the electronic receipt again, which clearly stated, "The examinee himself has confirmed the modification of his application." When my mom saw those lines of text, her face turned pale and her hands gripping mine were trembling. "Zhao Xue," her voice trembled, as if she wanted to ask me something but dared not bring it out. In my previous life, it was at this moment that I completely broke down. Back then, I couldn't produce any evidence, nor could I explain why the system showed, confirmed by the applicant, but in this life, I came prepared. This wasn't changed by me. I said to the teacher on duty, my voice steady, "I have evidence to prove that my final submission was for Tsinghua and Peking University." I pulled out the screen recordings saved on my phone, the electronic notarization emails, and the submission screenshots one by one. "This is the full screen recording from the day I submitted the application. This is the notarization timestamp. This is the successful submission page. The on-duty teacher, who had initially been somewhat perfunctory in a routine manner, visibly changed expression after reading it. Please wait a moment, I'll call the technical teacher over. Soon, a technical teacher hurried over. He checked the back end again and had me pull up my phone's verification code records. I opened the carrier's back end and pulled up that crucial verification code from last night. The log showed that, although the code was sent to my number, the reading device wasn't my current primary phone, but a synchronized secondary device. I then opened the screenshot from the secretly filmed video in Chapter 3. Gu Wanqing's action of looking down to photograph my verification code page was clearly captured. The room fell silent all of a sudden. My mom suddenly turned her head to look at Gu Wanqing. Why are you taking pictures with your phone? Gu Wanqing's face paled for a moment, and the next second, tears fell down. Auntie, I didn't. I was just taking a photo of the notes on the table that day, and accidentally included it. You don't suspect me too, do you? She cried quickly and fiercely, as if she had suffered a great injustice. If I hadn't died once, even I would have admired her face. The technical teacher continued typing on the keyboard, his expression growing increasingly serious. What we can confirm now is that the candidate themselves last submitted Tsinghua and Peking University. And then a trusted device made further changes. But to determine a system anomaly, we're still missing the final piece of evidence. My heart sank. What? Who exactly is using this trusted device? He looked up at me. If we can't directly prove that someone else operated it, the system will still have to recognize it as authorized by you. I glanced at the electronic clock on the wall. 10:07. Less than 2 hours remained until midnight. The teacher on duty's tone also grew heavier. Student Lin, you have 2 hours left. If direct evidence isn't produced within 2 hours, the file will be sealed and the outcome won't change. At that moment, even the air seemed to freeze. My dad stood beside me, his breathing growing heavier. The glimmer of hope that had just risen in my mom's eyes was instantly crushed by those words. But just then, a sudden image flashed through my mind. On the afternoon of filling out the college application, my mom walked into my room carrying a plate of fruit. I abruptly looked up, except for Gu Wanqing. That afternoon, someone else came into my room. Go home and check the surveillance footage. As soon as I said it, everyone froze for a moment. My dad reacted first. What surveillance? The one in the living room. I stared at him, directly facing my bedroom door and a corner of my desk. That afternoon, my mom went into my room. The camera must have captured who touched that tablet. My mom suddenly remembered too. Yes, I did bring some fruit in. Gu Wanqing's face instantly turned pale, but she soon spoke again with reddened eyes, her voice trembling with grievance. Xiaoxue, aren't you being too hasty? I'm really just helping you look up information. You can't blame me for everything that happens. She actually dared to turn the tables. I ignored her and turned to walk out. No one spoke the whole way. The car was so heavy with tension it was hard to breathe. Back home, my dad hurriedly adjusted the living room surveillance camera. The footage wasn't particularly clear, but the angle just happened to capture my bedroom door and a corner of my desk. We rewound the footage to the afternoon of the college application day. After I got up to get a drink from the kitchen, Gu Wanqing was the only one left in the room. In the surveillance footage, she first leaned forward toward my desk, then reached out to pick up the old tablet and bent her head to operate it for about 10 seconds. At that moment, my mom walked in carrying a plate of fruit. Gu Wanqing immediately flipped the tablet face down on the table and looked up, smiling at my mom. Auntie, what's your Wi-Fi password? I want to look up some school information. My mother stared at the screen, her face gradually turning pale. I remember now, her voice trembled. She really did ask me for the password that day, and I told her. She also said it would be more convenient to look up information on the tablet. This sentence fell like the final puzzle piece finally clicking into place. The room camera captured her secretly filming the verification code and memorizing the security questions. The living room surveillance recorded her operating the old tablet alone. My mother can testify that she asked for the Wi-Fi password and also handled that device separately. Additionally, there is the device identification from the system backend and the verification code secondary terminal access log. The chain of evidence was finally complete. I immediately organized the surveillance screenshots together with the previous recordings and sent them to the technical staff at the admissions office. Gu Wanqing completely panicked when she saw me sending the message. She suddenly lunged forward, trying to snatch my phone. Lin Xiaoxue, are you crazy? You didn't get into Tsinghua or Peking University yourself, so you want to blame me, right? She moved too hastily, her tears smudging all over her face, and for the first time, she could no longer maintain that gentle, aggrieved look. I took a step back. The next second, My dad had already stepped in front of me, blocking her. "Stay away from my daughter." For the first time in my life, my dad stepped in front of me without hesitation. My throat tightened, but I didn't let it distract me. That's when my phone rang. "He is the technical teacher from the admissions office." I picked it up immediately. The voice on the other end of the phone clearly changed. "Lin Zhaoxue, come back immediately. The evidence is sufficient."